Are you right wing or left wing? Um, my favorite wings are, um, honestly, I really like buffalo wings.
Hi, and welcome to Gray Area. I'm your host, David, and this will just be a brief introduction of what my intentions are for the podcast, as well as a short 10-minute clip from my first impromptu interview with my good buddy, Max. First of all, cheers. Sipping on some monkey shoulder on the rocks here. Now, it's not required for my guests to have a drink with me, but I would appreciate it if they did indulge me. However, I do have a requirement. Since this is going to be a political podcast for the most part, I'm going to use politicalcompass.org to gather pretty much where any of my guests sit on this political spectrum. You know, most people think of the political spectrum as left to right, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that. So politicalspectrum.org is a website that gives you a brief quiz, just like the ones that get passed around on Facebook, and it lets you see where you fall in the chart. But it also goes in depth in explaining that chart. Got a couple more. So these are some examples of where different historical figures would fall on that chart. And it goes into a pretty decent explanation on the website, but essentially, I believe most of today's American politics actually fall to the right of that center line. Even the Democrats, like what we call the left, isn't really as far left as a lot of people think they are. So the right would be far, far right, and then the Democrat liberals are more like closer to center, but they're still to the right of the center, and then more like a socialist type Democrat would be either almost dead center or a little bit to the left of center. But for the most part, we don't have any kind of politicians that are far, far left in the United States currently. At least, not the people that are actually elected right now, at least. So, anyways, I intend to have all of my guests do one of those, and then just for reference. See, this goes in depth here. I'm not going to read this out, but you guys can pause the video and read that if you want. This just explains the political compass, the way that they do it, and you can find this on their website also. But another good website that I'm probably going to be using a lot is allsides.com, which this is an example of what the website looks like. You can see right here is a bias rating, basically, and it's far left, left center, center right, and then far right. And you go into their webpage, and they call it like a unbiased search or something like that. This explains it to you. It tells you how they get their ratings, gives you examples of which news sources fall where on the bias rating. But yeah, you click on this search button at the top center, type in whatever you want to type, and then it'll pull up articles like what I just showed you about a specific topic, and it'll tell you where those sources fall. Anyways, the reason that I use that is because my objective in all of this really, and what inspired this podcast in the first place, is just trying to have objective reasoning and looking at all the facts instead of just taking whatever source that you typically go to, whether you're, the usual Fox News or CNN, depending on whether you're liberal or conservative, which most people say that they're further to either side than they actually are. But anyways, just don't take one source and assume that that's all the facts. They're not giving you all the facts, because if they're center left or far left or center right, far right, or even straight down the middle, I mean, there's biases in everybody. I'm biased too. I like to think that I think objectively, but at the end of the day, I still have biases as well. So anyways, what I like to do when I'm looking up a topic like that would be to look at a source like CNN, look at a source like like Fox, see how both sides are twisting the information, and then look at one that's right down the center, see if it has any additional information or somewhat of an unbiased opinion about that topic. And then if there's a primary source that we could look at, say the stimulus bill, for example, it was a really long bill, but you could look that up and read it yourself, I believe, or at least try to find somebody that you could rely on to actually give you the facts of what was actually in the bill, instead of just counting on CNN or Fox to tell you, because they're going to tell you, if it's Fox, they're going to tell you that the Democrats stuffed it with a bunch of pork that had nothing to do with spending, but also CNN's going to say that the left was looking out for the working class, while also not telling you that they did add a bunch of random stuff. Anyways, so that's one good example. Other than that, yeah, I mean, I don't plan on doing only politics. I want to try to have some people talk about some random things every now and then, because I know politics gets depressing and it gets boring, just gets old. Especially this year is going to be pretty rough, I think, for a lot of people, because it's an election year, and we are already in the middle of a pandemic, which obviously sucks for everybody already. But the election just makes it worse. Talking about politics on Facebook makes it worse. So I mean, this is another outlet, but at the same time, I want to have a break from that every now and then. So cheers. And I'm going to upload I think about a 10-minute clip of my impromptu interview with Max. Me and him talk every night almost. After midnight, I'm up studying for law school, and he's up. He's a local musician and entrepreneur, so he's usually up later than most people, and we just kind of shoot the shit back and forth and talk to each other about all kinds of stuff, and politics usually comes up. So anyways, one night I got my microphone in the mail, and I was like, hey dude, I want to try this out. You mind jumping on a video call with me? So I didn't have my camera set up at the time, so the video quality is probably trash, and I was in my living room in a tank top. So just fair warning, it's not a great quality video, but it'll get the job done for the first video, and you guys will have a good understanding of what it is that I'm going for. All right, welcome back. I forgot to throw up Max's political spectrum chart, so here's that. I hadn't already gone through this entire process when me and him did our impromptu interview, so I just had him shoot me that the results from his quiz just now, and so I was a little bit further to the right, but also towards the bottom like he is, towards libertarian. So that was one thing I also forgot to mention, is so there's left, right, which the website does break that stuff down for you, but left to right is more of an economic comparison or whatever. So from top to bottom is authoritarian versus libertarian, and basically that's just like, do you want your government to tell you what to do, or do you want the freedom to choose for yourself? That's probably an extremely simplified version of what it means to be authoritarian versus libertarian, but most people, that an authoritarian is like a dictator, and then like libertarians, basically the further that you are south of center, the closer you are to anarchy, which is just trusting people to make the right decisions, which obviously you can tell we can't make the right decisions, so government is necessary to an extent, but basically a libertarian believes that the government should only exist to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness type stuff. So me and Max align on that area, as far as we don't necessarily want the government controlling our lives, but at the same time he's a little further left than I am. But anyways, now you can enjoy that short clip of him and I. So thank you. All right. So here talking with Max. He was actually just trying to help me learn how to navigate Reddit, since I don't really fuck with Reddit ever. But we got on the topic of this authoritarian dilemma with Trump right now. And so what were we talking about?
Well, it's an ongoing dilemma, but now it's kind of very not so opaque and very
right. And basically, like, your point would basically, like, if any other president had said, you know, the president has full authority over the states or over the governors or whatever, it would be, you know, a new conspiracy about, like, oh no, the government's going to overthrow us, authoritarian. Like, you know, I personally could see, you know, the whole FEMA camp shit coming back, and they're going to kick down our doors and take our guns.
Right.
You know, if this had been Obama specifically, it would have been,
well,
know, that's what the people would have said. But it's Trump, so he gets a free pass.
Yeah. No, man. I mean, it's one of those. I mean, if you're doing the whole, if Obama had done this comparison, it's one of those things that I'd be a very rich man if I had a nickel for, you know, that whole metaphor. But it's like, it's very true in this circumstance where if you had any president say that you had absolute say over the governors about their own state and their own situation that they're overseeing. I mean, the local governments of Gwinnett County have more say about what happens in Gwinnett County, and because regarding health professionals on the field and being there, you know, obviously there's communication with the governor and all that, but it's like the federal is not there. Like, obviously there's just a want to get the market rolling again during an election year.
Right. And it depends on, like, what's going on. Like, I think people are getting this confused, like the national emergency, getting that confused with martial law. And it's not, we're not there. Like, we're not at martial law.
Yeah, there was a whole lot of that like a month ago. I think you made a post saying about how, hey, there's been 1,000 National Guard troops distributed in Georgia, but don't worry. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, don't worry. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's really it. Like, I don't know how many different people have literally, like, reached out to me over either Facebook Messenger, text message, phone calls, and just literally are like, dude, a friend of a friend. And it's always that. It's never like my direct friend showed me that, you know, they got an email from the National Guard or something like that telling them that, you know, a nationwide shutdown's about to happen. It's always like, oh, well, my friend said that their friend said, and then it's the same string of facts. And it was like, you know, I posted that one, and, you know, some jackass went back and added some watermark National Guard logos into the back of it, and we're like, you know, try to make it look official, even though it wasn't typed out officially. Like, it was still like, you know, blah, 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 ... and then skip down to the next line. So it was like, obviously a government official didn't type this shit out. Like, somebody typed this shit up on Word, and they added some National Guard logos to it. So I don't know why you're even asking me if it's real, because it's not real.
It's kind of like that time Trump, like, added the Sharpie to the hurricane map.
Yeah.
The hurricane drifting not towards Alabama, but all of a sudden
At this point, I've already, like, pissed off the Trump supporters because they're like, oh no, like, first episode and he's already talking shit about Trump. But I mean, I'm going to be stepping on toes here, and I'm just going to try to keep it real. But,
I mean, I'll to that, I will say, I understand that there is a reason why everybody thinks what they think. And I hope that they understand my reason for thinking what I think, or at least try to understand, not necessarily mine, but like other people's. You know, if somebody goes and hates on somebody I appreciate, like Bernie Sanders, it's not like I'm going to get offended and throw my hands up. Like, I want to learn why. Let's have a conversation, you know?
Right. Like, I mean, we could have a conversation right now about that I don't like about Bernie Sanders.
Sure.
And we've had that conversation multiple times.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we were really just talked about it a minute ago. I think that I align with him idealistically. Like, I think we have the same wants and desires for healthcare and for, education and stuff for everybody, but we don't have the same viewpoint of how to get there. Like, he wants the government to do it, and I'm all about, like, the least amount of government possible. So,
Right. And to that, I say, if we just incrementally remove corruption from government via lobbying and via their disproportionate love towards big corporate donors and not their constituents, on both sides, then you ultimately go back to what government is supposed to focus on: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, which I believe healthcare falls under the life umbrella there.
I feel like it does. The only thing that, like, the only question in my head is basically that your healthcare requires somebody's service, and there's a moral and ethical problem in my head with requiring somebody's services for free, I guess. Like,
yeah, no, it's a whole fuck ton of changes for us to accomplish something that works. But in 1965, when Medicare was first rolled out, it was highly regarded as a terrible policy, and now
socialism.
Right. And now it has a 93% approval.
Yep. Old people love it.
The most popular government policy. And, I mean, now we went from Medicare for all to, I guess Biden is lowering it 5 years to age 60 is his policy, which, I mean, it's another conversation of like what to do and how to do it. But ultimately, if we could do that, then there has to be other ways to make it so that if somebody loses the health lottery, that they are not bankrupt as a human being. And I mean, I think we all know people that go through that. Me and you are healthy, but at the same time, it extends past the lottery thing, even to things like having children, us being the only country in the world that does not guarantee, or in first world country, I guess, developed country in the world that does not guarantee marital leave,
Right.
Maternal leave, sorry. Russia gives like 2 years.
That is something that Trump has talked about doing, though, right?
Yeah, I believe it's one of those things, though. It's like he'll say, what I observe Trump doing a lot is saying, well, I don't see the problem with that. And like off the cuff. But then like as soon as it comes down to him behind the scenes, that private opinion and public opinion get mixed up from whoever is in his cabinet whispering in his ear, like Steve Mnuchin or whatever, and he just totally throws it off,
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that before me and you got on this call. Just rhetoric in general, like with politicians, with presidents, is like rhetoric is more important than their actual policies. And the reason that I got onto that like line of thought was just thinking about like the whole, left wing versus right wing, two wings of the same bird kind of thing. And I was like, realistically, Donald Trump is doing a lot of things that technically the Democrats like, such as like, supporting this stimulus check, such as enforcing stricter gun laws, stuff like that. And then also Obama, people were like, oh, he wants to open the borders and he's a Muslim and, whatever stupid bullshit
The
But he
birthers.
wanted to say, realistically, he deported more immigrants, more illegal immigrants than any
Yeah, I mean, people should
president
be
in recent
like
history.
Obama for that.
Yeah, it's like the camps at the border started under Obama. He bombed fucking like 7 or 9 different Muslim, majority Muslim countries. And it's just like, the point of me saying all this is just that, like, they might say that they feel a certain way, but once they get into office, their policies don't really reflect it. But that doesn't matter at the end of the day. I've talked to people that are liberal, even people in my family that are like, I don't care what they do in office. I care what their rhetoric is. And I'm like, to me, that's just like mind boggling. Like Joe Biden's a perfect